Hey everybody, it is Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. I mean, I just don't know what to say. I have power. I am here with Pearson. But welcome to the Rig on Wheels show featuring MVT. And I am your host, Camille E. Gaines. And we have our everybody's favorite VP of recruiting, Robert Pearson, right? Over there in Missoula Valley. No?
Yeah, doing good. Glad to be with you guys from Laredo, Texas.
Wait a minute, but you are everybody's favorite VP, right? No.
That depends. I'm not the favorite VP in my own house at times, so that really depends.
Okay, because the president is the favorite VP over there. Your wife, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. But we are your ultimate destination for everything: the hot jobs, the news, the industry tips, and driver tips, and what was the recruitment tips. So this is your first and only truck driver recruitment show, and let's go ahead and make history together. Let me tell you, we got a lot of news. You know, sometimes I'm like, Pearson, we don't have no news. Our world is excellent. It's boring. But we had so much news, I had to cut down and say, we got to be able to talk about jobs and the car giveaway. We just don't have time for all the news that has happened in the last 6 days. Like it's just
no, it's been a doozy. It's been a doozy.
Well, let's start talking about some good stuff first. Diesel went down, so you can take that.
Diesel went down 3.9 cents per gallon, down to 382.6 at this moment. Did the opposite of what we anticipated. We were expecting, due to the holiday, people traveling, due to the hurricane down there in Houston, fuel to go up. It didn't. It's at 382. It's a nice reprieve. It's down substantially over the last 3 months. With that said, we'll see what it does the following week. We kind of expected last week to be a lot of flux. You know, we generally follow diesel pretty close on here, as well as the load boards. And the load boards were skewed to nobody's business. And so week 27, freight was down 43% as far as load availability. We kind of expected that given the holidays, the hurricane, a whole bunch of stuff. We kind of talked about how week 28 is going to be more indicative of what we're going to see into the future. Despite the fact that freight volume was down 43%, there was obviously a lot of capacity drivers that were home because I can tell you that dry van went up a penny, flatbed steady even, good increase for reefer there at 7 cents. But the week before, we were at 5.6 loads to every one truck. Last week, we were at 3 to 1 as far as that ratio. So as we said, looking at load volume, we are not going to be able to tell that much this week. Week 28 is going to be the week that's going to be very telling on if the second half of the year is as good as we anticipate it being. As we've talked about on the show here, or extravaganza as we renamed it last week, freight volume in the second half of the year should be more stout than it has been probably in the past 18 months.
Yeah, I definitely would say that. And going back to that diesel, we had diesel going up for the last month or for the last 4 weeks, I guess, if we want to be exact. And so for it to come down, I just knew it was going to go up. And then I was, using my little fingers trying to look at what the Gulf Coast did, but it didn't go up either. I was like, what is going on? And then the Midwest came down the most, with 5 cents or so. And did you hear about the tornadoes that's been happening in Chicago?
I did. I didn't get all the details on that, though.
Yeah, so, Definitely drivers want them to be safe. A driver did a rollover today in Chicago in Hazelcrest, which is a suburb, and flipped over the interstate, or in Chicago we call it everything is expressway. So I don't know the correct term. It's not until I moved to Houston that I realized things were different, interstate highway and all of that. But so I, you know, definitely prayers for his family, his co-workers, and everything, and everyone that loved him. That's all I
I
can.
think the big thing to remember is being somewhat having trepidation on the road. One of the folks that we follow on Instagram, both of us, is Trendsetter, and he had a really interesting reel that he did this morning, talking about how when you see two trucks going down the road and one passes the other truck, that company driver is basically going as fast as the truck will allow him to go, or as fast as the company will allow him to go, where the owner operator that's passing him going 15 miles an hour quicker is going as fast as the truck will let him go compared to the company. And they have to compete with each other. We think often about cents per mile and how many miles you can squeeze into an hour, when you really got to focus on how much is your time worth and your equipment worth,
Yeah,
not necessarily trying to squeeze as many miles into it. And it's not just fuel economy you have to look at, you have to look at the weather. If you don't make it to your next destination because you roll over, you're not making any money. It is okay to sit back and go, hey, it's not good to go forward here. It's not good to move forward. Having a little bit of that humbleness gene in your DNA on the road can be a lifesaver for your business. And so it's one of the things we talk a lot when we go into the winter weather. The industry will talk about chaining and dealing with snow and preparing the truck, but we seem to get somewhat lackadaisical during the summer months where you can have tornadoes, substantial rain, sleet, hail, and a whole lot of other factors. Uh, and look, best case scenario, the driver in the case of the rollover, I believe, lived. So thank God for that. But with that said, a rollover is catastrophic to your career. Most insurance providers do not want to cover you operating a vehicle after a rollover. It can be devastating to your career. Generally says you don't have control of your vehicle, which as a professional driver on the road is one of the most insightful indictments that can be lobbed upon you, is that you can't control the 80,000 pounds going down the road. It is worth telling a dispatcher, even if you get a dispatcher that doesn't understand what you're seeing, it is worth telling a dispatcher, I do not feel safe going forward. We have to let the weather pass, and dealing with any ramifications that come from that, then going forward in it and ultimately rolling the truck. Worst case scenario, there's a fatality. Best case scenario in a rollover is your career now has some extreme barriers and challenges as you look for your next job.
absolutely. Well, the guy that I was talking about today with the rollover, he didn't survive because he rolled over onto the in between viaducts in Chicago. The one you are probably talking about, yeah, he did survive. But the one I was talking about, he rolled over off the highway in between two viaducts, and
Hmm.
viaducts with everybody else's bridges. We call it viaducts in Chicago, where I'm from. So it was a
That's
lot to
horrible.
see. Yeah. Fox reported that, and then also I saw it on LinkedIn today, this morning. But let's definitely talk about this. Well, first, any political violence is horrible. We don't like any violence. Pearson and I are definitely against all of that. With that being said, Donald Trump did pick his VP, um, and that is Senator J.D. Vance. Now, Freightways had this morning, and I wanted to bring him up because he had been a pro when it came to like truck parking, and so he was very outward with that in support of the truck parking and the Improvement Act, which allocates over 755 million over the next 3 years for truck parking expansion. And that is not just for the operation for the drivers, but that's for the safety for the drivers. And safety is one of the number one things when it comes to retention, because everybody deserves, not just needs, but deserves to be safe. They need to know that then when they leave to, go to deploy, not to deploy, sorry, to go off to their job, that they're gonna be coming back home to their loved ones. So the safety, and so this particular um, a politician is all for that. Did you have something to say behind that? I have a few points that I have typed out.
Oh, I definitely want to hear your points. I will just say that we seem to be in a bit of a transitionary period between parties. We had the head of the Teamsters Union speaking at the RNC. Didn't
That's
see
the
that one
first time
coming.
ever.
Didn't see that one coming. I think there
I
were
didn't see
mixed
that one.
responses as I looked at the crowd reaction. But with that said, it feels like we are in a very transitional election.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's going to shape out, and you can talk to any political analyst; they probably couldn't tell you how it's going to shape out. I am somewhat encouraged by his VP pick. I'm interested to see
Yeah.
um, the impact. Trump hinted at discontinuing some of the tax breaks for the EVs. We'll see what that does to the price of fuel potentially, but the EVs in this country are propped up by a lot of tax breaks still at this moment. We can get into the debate of right, wrong, indifferent, but they are propped up substantially by those. It just feels like, this is going to be a very transitional year, and that I don't know that we recognize either party as it is today versus, say, 4 to 6 years from now. That's all I'd add, but I definitely want to hear your points. Let's roll.
Yeah, that was the first time when I found out that he's the head of the Teamsters. I almost fell off my chair because it's the Teamsters and that's the Republican National. So, and it just seems like oil and water. But look at the pick that Trump has picked as well. So even though I know the Teamsters, nobody um, chooses to endorse any candidate, but I will say we're teeter-tottering on hugging a party. You know, just kind of hugging. Okay, so also highlight the Drive Act. Vance co-sponsored, which claims to prevent mandatory speed limiters on trucks. This is a key issue for many truck drivers who argue that speed limiters can create safety hazards and efficiency on the road. Now, I'm against that. I believe in speed limiters in the trucks. Um, First of all, it's safety. Also, it helps maintenance for the trucks. It's about the overall everything. It's like a calculus problem. It's actually econometrics. And if anybody doesn't know what that class is in graduate school, it is the economics of calculus, literally. So that is what speed limiters do. So you can't just talk about velocity. That's undergrad. And I don't want to put college in here, but literally that's when I saw this, that's what that brought me back to those particular classes in school. That's undergrad, that's talking about velocity and all of that type of stuff, the same stuff that your kids learn in grade school. But econometrics is something totally different because it also is talking about the maintenance of the truck. You have to deal with this over the lifetime or your lifetime of the truck and actually input all of this stuff as a formula in your Google spreadsheet or your Microsoft spreadsheet and see what the bottom line is. You can't just use the velocity of the truck and say, oh, this is what my profit is. That is very amateurish and incompetent. That is my spiel. What do you think? I feel like I have a lot of
Um,
strong points today.
the evidence is overwhelming, and I try to go off of statistics, and I've heard every theory and conspiracy theory over the past 15 years on the topic. Our trucks are governed at 65. Now we raise them up depending on fuel economy up to 67. There's numerous reasons we do that. One is fuel economy, and fuel economy in the world of trucking, as we've preached on this show repeatedly, is one of the few areas you can really save money in this industry. Excuse me. The other part's from a safety perspective, and they have found repeatedly on numerous studies over the past 2 decades that the rate of fatalities goes up dramatically between 65 and 75 miles an hour on the road, both for the truck driver as well as the person that's the civilian outside of trucking. The rate of fatalities almost doubles when that extra 10 miles an hour is applied onto a truck moving down the road. From a safety perspective, from maintenance, as you pointed out here, you get a lot more out of that truck. And look, you only have a truck on average for approximately 3 to 5 years, depending on taxes and a few other things as far as how your trade ins go. In that time, you want that truck performing at the end of that period as well as it did at the beginning of that period. The more wear and tear on it, be it the weight of the freight or the speed and the pressure that you put on that engine, you ultimately get more out of it going at 65 compared to going to 75 down the road. Um, I get it. This appears to be one of the things that OIDA's really stuck its hat into, and we've talked about this on this show, that our industry has a very weak lobbyist group. The ATA doesn't do much as far as really pushing for the advocacy of the trucking industry. I like a lot of things of the ATA. They do represent us, but they are not the most aggressive lobbyists in the industry. OIDA is aggressive, and I give them all the credit in the world. They are extremely aggressive at pursuing lawmakers, trying to get the attention for our industry. This is one of those points that I think they're misguided on. And I get it, it's popular with their 400,000 members. But going down the road at 75 miles an hour, 80,000 pounds, doesn't make financial sense, doesn't make safety sense. And so I'm curious how this plays out. And honestly, I hope JD's not very popular with this first point that you brought up. There's certain things he does that I like, but that's not one of them.
And I would agree with that. That is, for me, that's definitely not one of them, um, because of safety, but also it's simple. One plus one equals two. It never equals three, and it never equals four. So that's
Yep.
how that is with me. Also, pro trucker legislative record. He emphasizes a proven track record of supporting truckers' priorities, such as opposing regulations that negatively impact owner ops and independent drivers. That's why Oda is very partial to him. I'm I I like it. I like them as well. I like anybody that's partial to a truck driver as long as it makes sense. Um, I like the guy so far. You know,
No, I do
I
too.
like.
And the key thing is we've talked about this with AB5 out of California and a number of other initiatives. Our industry is heavily reliant on the independent contractor model, and even us as a company that is an asset based company, we mainly have company drivers, overwhelmingly have company drivers. We still have a brokerage, we still have other wings of the business that
Mhm.
depend on the independent contractor or small business owner model in the trucking industry. The owner operator has a place in our industry. The more that we whittle away at that, we leave a major hole in our supply chain because not everybody that starts their way as an owner operator or small fleet owner, the assumption is that they just revert back to a company driver. That is not the case. There are cases individually you can point out to that, but generally, once somebody is granted their own authority, there's little evidence to suggest that they go back into the company driver model. Instead, they tend to leave the industry with all, which leaves that hole in the supply chain.
I You make me just want to shout because I agree with all of that. all of that. Now, this point, number four, I will say is probably the one that is closest to my heart. And once I read this, you're going to understand why. And I just, this is the end all be all. So, impact, he's pretty big on this. Impact of legislative change on recruitment. Analyze how the legislative supports and changes could make the trucking profession more appealing, potentially aiding recruitment efforts by improving working conditions and environment. Because this issue is bigger than you, me, any of the companies. It has to come from above. It literally needs to be where the government is making the trucking industry, the transportation industry, something that people want to be in. Like, remember when everybody wanted a government job? Is because of how the government marketed it. So it needs to be the same thing. There is no other profession that is more important than trucking. Nothing, literally, other than sales, right? Okay, so no other profession at all. So that means if this runs one of the things that runs our economy, other than sales, runs our economy. Everything that we touch, everything has to come in on a truck. Whether it comes by boat, plane, or train, it still has to touch the wheels of a truck. That means that our government should have a mandate that they are marketing that this is a career of choice. So that's important, and I love it that he agrees with that. That's smart. It don't to me it's common
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. I think we and you and I've grown up in eras where everyone preached about a college degree, and now
Hmm.
we're in a position now that the economy has too many college graduates. It
Yeah.
turns out that when you get a bachelor's degree in frisbee physics, that doesn't do you a whole lot of good in the actual workforce. There are definitely jobs you need to have a college degree. I don't underestimate the value of that. Trust me, I want my lawyer, my doctor to have college degrees and then some. With that said, you cannot have a college degree or don't need a college degree to have a job or a profession that's highly respected. And I think that's the thing is we're having to basically counter what guidance counselors pressed out there for years and years and years. Uh, there's a lot of respectable jobs, and in my mind, one of the most respectable professions you can have in your career is as a professional on the road. It's still the most popular job or highly populated job in 20 plus states at this point is that of a truck driver. That's not going down. That's only going to increase. Um, I like some of the efforts that we're doing there, and I'm encouraged by some of the talk on that end. Um, I've been appointed. I wish we would hear more about eliminating the Jones Act, which kind of holds our industry back a little bit and impacts how freight moves around the country. And trust me, if you lived in Hawaii, it's part of why your cost of living is so low or so high is because of the
I was
Jones
about to
Act.
say,
Um,
right.
yeah, it's not low. So I wish we'd hear more about that. But look, part of the job of a president is to be a cheerleader for the country. We kind of
Hmm.
overemphasize this, but they give a ton of speeches. A average president's doing 5 full speeches every single day. Part of their job is that of a cheerleader for the country as well as a negotiator with other foreign leaders. Most of the laws physically come out of Congress, the Senate. Um, my big thing here is I want somebody that's going to talk about the trucking industry and the value of truck drivers and what they do and the importance of it and how to save it on a continuous and routine basis, not once a year or twice a year. It should be something that's talked about extensively. So that part gives me some encouragement that it's high on the priority list of talking piece. I know it's not as attractive as pen to paper, but like I said, part of the job of a president and vice president is supposed to be the cheerleader for the next 4 years. And so talking about it and having that open dialogue becomes really, really important.
I agree with it. I definitely agree with it. And going back to another point that you said, this is going to be, let me speak correctly. This is going to be a transitional year. And I was not ready. I did not know that that was going to happen. But
No, no, especially with two of the same candidates we've seen a couple times now. This is a bit of an old hat. Every election cycle, every politician always goes, "Hey, you got to get out and vote. This is historic. This is going to change everything." No politician is ever going to come out and say, "This is pretty standard. This is a normal election. I wouldn't get too excited about." It." No politician ever does that. With that said, I don't know what we look like 4 years from now politically. I don't think the pundits on TVs really know, but like I said, when night one of the RNC has the Teamsters leader up there speaking before the crowd and there in Milwaukee, that's got to be a sign of something. I don't know what it means, but I think we are seeing the winds changing.
yeah, something in the wind is changing. Well, the last thing that I want to say, and it's funny that you're in Laredo, and I didn't know. I think I knew that you were in Laredo, but it kind of I didn't plan on this article, but I do know that MVT does a lot of cross border trucking, and Mayco in May reached a significant increase when it comes to the automakers and everything. And now we're at 73 billion, and it's the largest that it's been. But it's not just automakers, it's computer, auto parts, and all of that stuff. And of course, majority of it is coming out of Laredo. So how do you feel to be sitting in Laredo? Kind of like in the spot.
Yeah, one of the terms we're going to hear a lot over the next 5 years is near sourcing, where a lot of what came out of China is
Mm-hmm.
going to come out of Mexico. Now, a lot of these plants still take 4 years to construct from top to bottom. There's a lot of carriers that are going to try and get into this business, and they're going to find that it's not as easy as it sounds. You have to have the infrastructure in place in order to do it, be able to get your trucks back into the market to pull freight out of. We generally pull about 500 loads a day across the border points there in Nogales, Arizona, El Paso, Texas, and of course here in Laredo. We're optimistic long term when you consider that that was already our niche. But as we've also talked during this election cycle, one of the things I'll give Donald Trump credit for in his first term as president is really Steve Mnuchin crafted NAFTA 2. NAFTA 2's
Yeah.
made it substantially easier to get established, get freight across the border, and incentivize Mexico to be a really good business partner with the U.S. So, despite all the talk about border walls and Mexico's going to pay for it, when you get past all the rhetoric and pen actually did get put to paper, the next 4 to 5 years, we're going to see a lot of cooperation with Mexico. They are most likely going to be our largest ally in terms of economically. Military wise, I don't know, but economically, Mexico by far is probably going to be the country we're most in on over the next decade as China plays a smaller and smaller role. I don't know that China is really going to even be in that top five for us going forward. And so I would expect that year over year, we're going to see that growth. And who knows where we are 5 years from now? I always try not to predict too far into the future. I'm not a geopolitical expert by any means, but we definitely see that activity in Mexico. And if you ever go into Juarez, Nuevo Laredo, Reynoso, um, and you start going about 15, 20 minutes outside of town, south of the cities, you're seeing a lot of construction and new facilities
Yeah.
and a lot of common names down there that you would not anticipate. And a lot of them have Chinese writing on the back of the buildings or on the sides of the buildings because China is trying to get involved in Mexico now, understanding that it's more incentive. We are highly incentivized to work with a plant here instead of worrying about taking a barge across the Pacific Ocean.
That's what I was going to say as well. That China is understanding that and is also building there as well. So that is, I mean, we talked a lot about news, and we normally don't talk that long about news, but we had a lot of news going on, and some very good stuff. And we want your feedback on it. We welcome your feedback on it. Absolutely. So say your spiel, and Kayla will let us know. She'll screenshot some things. She'll yell it out to us here. Look at Pearson. Pearson said, "No, don't yell. You don't want her to yell, Pearson."
No, please don't yell. Calmly show us what feedback you
Oh,
get.
oh yeah, calmly, just calmly. Oh, so peaceful. But let's go ahead, go to commercial, and when we come back, we will talk about the hot jobs, and let's see if we can get some more good information out of Pearson. I'll hypnotize Welcome back. Welcome back. I was trying to pay off Pearson to see if he would give us some inside information that he's not supposed to give. So let's see if my $5, how far it goes. Let's see. Oh God, $5
Sometimes
I
it
need to
feels
get
like
coffee.
no. Sometimes it feels like I'm in an interrogation here, and the next thing you know, I'll start giving away the last four of my social and a few other pieces of information by the time we're all done.
Well, it is what it is. I'm kind of like what's Diane Sawyer?
Yeah, she was an investigative journalist, wasn't she?
Hmm. See, I got that
Crap.
right.
Yeah.
Very classy.
Uh, yeah, absolutely. Want to jump into divisions, Kayla?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Uh,
That's
let's
300
do.
first.
Yeah,
Oh,
let's do 300. All right, one of my favorite divisions. It's the Triangle Division. Right now, we're actively hiring out of El Paso, our home market. We have approximately 650 drivers based out of the El Paso area. We could add about 40 to 50 drivers onto this specific division. We go out of El Paso and we go to one of four locations. We either go down to Laredo, San Antonio, Houston, or over to the DFW, popping up to the Colorado Front Range. Out of Colorado, we're going to take southbound freight down I-25, going towards either Albuquerque or continuing on down to El Paso, and then the driver's at home. The run takes approximately 4 to 4.5 days. Driver will get their 34-hour reset. They will be right back out on the road right after that. A lot of consistent home time, predictability on that home time, which is important to any driver or anybody that wants to just know, hey, I'm going to be home on this day. A lot of value to that. The other part of, even though the fact we go into Colorado, we are never going west to the Eisenhower Tunnel. So even though we may have to have chains because there are state laws regulating it, our drivers on this division are never having to use chains because they're not going up into those areas that would require you to use chains. Really strong customer base. We have customers that have been with us 2, 3, 4 decades in a couple cases. On this account, this is made up of about 18 different customers. I always point to this. It's the benefit of engineered lanes versus dedicated. We have approximately 18 customers. We rely on it. So when one customer cancels an order or something comes up, there's a lot of availability to have a backup to the backup to the backup to keep you rolling down the road. That's a lot of value. The other part, in each of those four markets, we have local drivers. And those local drivers are there to keep you rolling. Those local drivers are doing trailer repositions, last mile delivery. So, as what we would call an OTR driver, in actuality, this is more of an engineered lane or regional lane. You're able to experience a lot of drop and hook. This division for our drivers within Division 300 are about 80% drop and hook. you're going to average about $1,680 a week. That comes out to $4 to $86,000 a year annually. Really nice opportunities there. You're eligible as well for the MPG bonus, and I will tell you that this is a division that has had a couple people get the quarterly MPG bonus that we do. It's the difference of going southbound I-25 versus going northbound. Going northbound, you tend to get worse fuel economy than going southbound out of Colorado. It's one of the things that we look at to the tune of about half a mile per gallon. So that's helpful from a directional standpoint. And it's nice running lane. You'll obviously hit some traffic going in and out of Houston or DFW. They're large metropolitan areas, but these lanes have a lot of open running area. You're going to see a lot of I-20, I-10. You're going to see Highway 285 or 287 that goes from DFW up to Colorado, and a lot of I-25. This tends to be a popular division in an industry that has really high turnover. We don't have turnover in particular in this division. Very few people once on it leave it. And so this is a division that I would definitely say if you live around around Las Cruces, New Mexico, or El Paso, give us a call today. We'd love to have you join our team, and you'd be doing orientation right there in El Paso with us for this division. Kayla, do we want to pull up my favorite division, 329? Division 329, Texas Regional. A lot of drop and hook this division as well. Taking both teams and solo drivers on this. There's weekly home time. Going to see a lot of freight out of Laredo, San Antonio, Houston, Mount Vernon, Fort Worth, Dallas. We have some freight that goes into the Panhandle coming out of Amarillo and Lubbock, as well as other points in between. High amount of drop and hook on this division, so the length of haul is shorter, but you're never more than a day from home. So God forbid if something ever happens and you have to get home in a hurry, you are never more than 24 hours away from the house. Our teams on this division will also round out to El Paso and come back into the normal running areas. Again, have current openings for this. We could take on about 25 to 30 drivers on this. Out of Houston, DFW, San Antonio, or Laredo. Most people in this division are going to do orientation where I'm at right now in Laredo. I presently have about 15 people behind me, behind this wall, that are doing this, and 7 of them are for Division 329. Really good guys back there right now. So again, a fun division. Make anywhere between $1,200 to $1,800 a week. That $1,200 is more or less if you have about 6 months of experience. If you have more than a year of experience, you're going to be closer to that $1,800 a week. And our teams on this division are averaging anywhere between $3,600 to $4,000 a week for the team. IKEA, Starbucks, Container Store, and many more customers in this. 90% of what we haul is going to be direct customer freight. It's going to be 70 to 80% drop and hook. And with all our freight, you do not need hazmat. You do not need any weird endorsements. You're not going to haul anything that will have you glowing in the dark at night. And it's no touch. We don't want our drivers to be lumpers. Our customers respect our drivers for the professionalism that they have behind the wheel and the handling of their freight. So it's a great opportunity with a nice running lane and consistent running lane with a lot of drop and hook. And I tell you what, let's talk about the stress-free division, Division 430. Division 430 have current openings out of Jacksonville. If you live in Jacksonville, you've talked to recruiters that have constantly tried to either send you towards Atlanta, where you can play around 285, which is not a lot of fun, or you're going to go up I-95, constantly going to DC and New York and Boston and the fun Northeast corridor. Not with our division here out of 430. About 60% of what we do out of here is with Lowe's, who's a really good customer for us, and we're expanding our business with Lowe's. And so one of the things that we have is Division 430 out of Jacksonville, Florida. You're going to go from Jacksonville to Houston, Houston to Laredo, and then Laredo back to Jacksonville. Generally, you're going to have weekly home time. We have a secure drop yard there in Jacksonville where you'll store your truck as well as be able to have parking for your vehicle. You're going to run I-10. Outside of getting a hurricane once every 5 years along this corridor, you're going to be able to run freely and stress-free, averaging about $1,200 a week. A lot of drop and hook, pretty good length of haul on it. We have approximately 75 people on, and we could grow this out to probably about 100 over the next 3 months. So opportunities to bring on 2 to 3 a week out of Jacksonville in this particular division. This is one of many divisions that we have, though, as well. So keep in mind, if we didn't talk about a market that you have actively seen on one of the three divisions that we featured today, we have other opportunities available out of Portland, Salt Lake City, Phoenix, El Paso, Albuquerque, Denver, the DFW marketplace, Houston, San Antonio, Laredo, Memphis, Tennessee, St. Louis, Nashville, all of Kentucky, all of Tennessee, as well as Jacksonville, Florida, and then we have an upcoming dedicated move that will only get shown on this show. Most likely near the end of August, we will have a home daily or home every other day dedicated opportunity within about 50 miles of Columbus, Ohio. The first place that you'll find out about that, though, will be on this show, so you'll want to continue to tune in. We'll do orientation up there in Columbus. And so if you have anybody that lives in the Ohio area that's looking for great home time with OTR pay, you'll want to continue to tune in. So for any of these jobs, Camille, do you want to tell them how they can reach out to the fine team there at Rig on Wheels?
Yes, definitely. We have the recruiters. Look, we have the recruiters standing by. You have to literally be a certain age to understand what they mean. So for everybody that is not that certain age, you don't understand. But anyway, give us a call at 281-968-3100, 281-968-3100. And all of the MVT jobs, basically majority of them, they start at 6 months experience. If you don't fit the MVT criteria, we do have other companies. We want to put you in with MVT, but if for some reason you don't fit that criteria or you don't fit the criteria now, we do have other companies that you may fit. So give us a call at 281-968-3100 or go directly to the website at rigonwheels.com and complete the driver application. And we will, one of the recruiters will definitely give you a call today or tomorrow. Did you have something to say, Chris?
Yeah, I was going to say it's a good call to make too. As a professional on the road, when you get into the situation that you have to find a job, it is a long, grueling process. 10 Street, who follows this stuff, will say that the average driver that goes looking for a job ends up having to talk to 8 different recruiters. And I'm sure they're nice recruiters. I'm not saying anything about our competition. With that said, it's a long, grueling process. And it is one of those things that's stressful. The nice thing when you talk to Rig on Wheels is they essentially act as your agent. So let's pretend that you're a famous football player and you have teams vying for your services on their team. The nice thing here is Nimmer and Deborah and everybody on the Rig on Wheels team acts as your personal agent. So instead of having to have those 8 different relationships, they're going to talk about what you need, what you want. Now, I'm biased. I'm hoping that they're going to lead me to you. But in actuality, their job in this relationship is to figure out what's going to be the best fit for you. It's the difference between looking at a job of going, hey, let's hang out here for 90 days and see if it's going to work, or let's find a spot that ultimately is going to be a career destination that am more likely to have a long-term career with. And so take the time to have that call. The more information that you share with the folks at Rig on Wheels, the better off you're going to be, and the better off ultimately the carrier is going to be because they're getting a driver that wants to be where they're going.
Absolutely. And I do want to piggyback off of that. Definitely share the information because that way we can put you in with this multiple companies and put you in with the right company. That is what our job is to put you in with the right company because we need to put you in with the company for you in this season. And I don't mean like it's summertime. I mean because of where you are right now and what your needs are for you and your family. So that is definitely what that is. Pearson.
Yep, and absolutely. Rig on Wheels obviously needs to be profitable, but they don't have a quota with MVT. So, as an example, there may be a month where I get 1 driver from Camille and her team. There may be another month where I get 8 to 12 drivers from the Rig on Wheels team. Ultimately, though, the nice thing is when I get a driver from Rig on Wheels, we want them, they want us. Tends to be a symbiotic relationship without getting too complicated there, and it ends up being a much more long-term success story rather than you showing up to orientation and going, what did I just sign up for?
Absolutely. because the entire point is to send over the ideal driver for MVT and vice versa. So what we definitely want to do is go to commercial. We want to go to commercial with because I want to talk about how nice the trucks are. Okay. Because we talked about the hot jobs and you're going to be on the road for a couple of days at a time. So I want you to see how nice the trucks are, what type of technology and the room that you have in the truck. So I want you to see Joe. He's about what, 6'4", 6'5". So he's not a short guy. He's not a little guy. So you'll be able to see the room that you have in those trucks. So Kayla, if you could definitely do that for us.
At Mesilla Valley Transportation, every driver is behind the wheel of a late model International LT, a truck that takes comfort, convenience, and safety to a whole new level. Join us as we explore the impressive features of this powerhouse on wheels. The open road is full of surprises, and sometimes that includes unexpected encounters with wildlife. But worry not, the International LT has you covered. The front end protection guard offers an extra layer of defense, protecting you from animal strikes. Drive with confidence, knowing that you're shielded from the unexpected. We all know how important it is to keep our batteries charged, and our International LTs have your back. The Cummins X15 is equipped with an auto start feature, ensuring that your batteries are automatically recharged when they run low on volts. It's a seamless process that keeps you powered up and ready to hit the road. Disc brakes and an engine brake provide reliable and safe stopping power when you need it most. You can have peace of mind knowing that you're in control. Safety is at the forefront of what we do. Our International LTs are equipped with top-of-the-line safety features to ensure your well-being while out on the road. These tractors are equipped with Bendix fusion protection, collision mitigation, and lane departure warning. Achieving good fuel efficiency deserves recognition. With the International LT, your efforts don't go unnoticed. When you consistently achieve impressive miles per gallon, the International LT rewards you with increased speed. It's a little extra motivation to keep you pushing for better fuel economy. After a long drive, you're ready for a well-deserved break. With the International LT, you can enjoy your rest period in absolute comfort. Thanks to its auxiliary power unit, you can keep the driver's cabin heated or cooled just the way you like it. No matter the weather outside, you'll always find your sweet spot within our International LTs. The International LT understands that comfort extends beyond driving. It's a space where you can truly feel at home. I'm a big guy, and I have room to move around in here. With plenty of room to spare, the International LT accommodates even the tallest drivers. And there's ample storage for all your clothes, cooking essentials, and tools, making life on the road even more convenient. Speaking of cooking, bring along your appliances and don't sacrifice any luxuries thanks to all of our International LTs being equipped with built-in inverters. Dry your hair, make a smoothie, or play a game, all from the comfort of your truck. We take pride in our well-maintained fleet. And if by chance you do come across something wrong on your truck, you're never far from help thanks to our valuable relationship with Penske. With more than 750 brick and mortar Penske shops nationwide, their expert team is always ready to assist you. From routine maintenance to unexpected repairs, they'll get you taken care of and back on the road in no time. And there you have it. Just a few things about this late model International LT that make MVT the place to be.
I just love that commercial because Joe does such a great job with being extremely detailed. It doesn't even give us much to have to say behind that because he does such a fantastic job with all of the detail of being able to talk about how, first of all, is the bunks in there that the cat or what the condo inside of there is for a team, even though majority of the drivers are solo. So that lets you know right there that it's a lot of room. Something you wanted to add on, Pearson?
Yeah, I would say, we talked about it a lot last week as far as investing in people. And part of that comes into the equipment piece of this. We want a driver to be comfortable. We want them to be able to perform. And we want our customers to have reliable equipment hauling their freight down the road. Ultimately, at the end of the day, your truck is the beginning piece of it. It would be like a banker showing up and sitting behind a desk, and the desk is missing a leg, or they have a computer that doesn't have a mouse. They wouldn't accept that. Same thing goes for a driver. If you don't have the equipment to efficiently and effectively do your job, you're literally right out the gate going to have some significant issues. The other part of that equation that's important is the relationship with Penske. All trucks have something that at some point in their life will go wrong. So the question is what happens when the unplanned event takes place? Penske's a nice vendor for us. They have hundreds of locations around the country. And again, if something can't be fixed quickly, so let's say that you're going down the road and all of a sudden the air conditioning goes out. This time of year, you need air conditioning. The windows being down aren't going to help you much when you're trying to. The ability to go into any Penske location, have it addressed. If it's going to be a long-term issue, giving you a loaner truck that's the same type of truck so that you can go ahead and finish out and continue to make money. And when you come back on your engineer lane through there to pick up your original truck, is an invaluable resource. If you've ever been a driver that has been in a situation where you've been down 3-4 days waiting on equipment, and I don't care, most companies that do layover pay in that scenario never make up the difference of what you'd actually get moving freight. So the ability to keep moving and making money becomes pivotal. And in your first 90 days at any trucking company, as you're trying to find your way and become integrated into the operations of the company, it's important your pay is consistent in that first 90 days. You've already lost money in having to change jobs, plus having the job that wasn't working for you in the process. The ability to consistently make a paycheck week in and week out in that first 90 days is going to be your make or break on long-term success at any company. The equipment in Penske allows you to ensure that's going to take place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up. And the realization is they lost that time from when they switched companies. So you definitely want to go to a company that has the plans for when the truck does go down. So I'm glad you brought that up because that's very realistic.
I think the important thing to keep in mind is valuing people's times. And so an example would be a lot of companies will pay somebody $50 a day for orientation. You are not, as a professional driver, trying to make $50 a day. It's one of the reasons why we pay $500 for a 2.5-day orientation. We want you to keep making the money you would be if you were actually in the truck running down the road. Our big thing is making sure that your pay is consistent, it's high, and predictable. If it's predictable, you're able to budget off of it. So you will find, look, you'll find a carrier that says, hey, we're going to give you 1 week a month that you make $2,000. But if the next 3 weeks after that stink, you've not gained anything. The big thing here is making sure that day after day, week after week, you have a set budgeted amount that you know I'm going to make good money and it's going to be consistent week over week. Because if it's not, this becomes really expensive. And if anybody's been in that financial situation where you're having good week, bad week, good week, bad week, what ends up happening is you start falling behind. And it's how, as a driver, you get into that situation where you're living paycheck to paycheck, which no driver should be living paycheck to paycheck.
And then I like how you said that. First of all, that's a good faith estimate, or that's definitely good faith that MVT puts his money where his mouth is, because for a 2.5-day orientation, you're being paid the $500, because you're right. Majority of the companies are not doing that. Not even close.
No. And it's hard to look at an experienced truck driver. Yeah, I've seen a lot out there that anywhere between $40, $50, $60 a day. And it feels wrong to me to look at a professional driver that you're saying, I'm excited you've joined us, and giving them $50 for the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, I get you. We do have a live question on YouTube. It says, JC Moles says, what requirements do y'all as recruiters do or look for when trying to help someone find a trucking job in the industry? I'll be honest, I'm having a very difficult time finding a company that'll hire me due to I'm a felon. So that's a lot to unpack. So let me try to unpack it for you, because there are a lot of different scenarios. So one, it could be, what is your felony? That's the first thing. But even before with that, I ask, how much experience do you have? Because depending on your experience as well, because if you are a recent grad, there are only certain amount of companies that will take you anyway. Then you have those companies that you are dealing with. But it also depends on what kind or what was your felony and when was your felony. Pearson, what were you about to say? I could feel
Yeah,
your
I will
energy.
say that a felony is not the end all be all. Now, some companies will vary from one to the next. I will say this: one of the things as we take on all these attorneys that tackle our industry is they look at creature of habit. So, as an example, if you have a violent felony in your past, it's imperative that you not have speeding tickets. It's imperative that you not have failure to yields and things that would indicate that you are aggressive in nature. We all make mistakes in our lives, some different than others, but we have a time in our life that we probably wish we were smarter, wiser, more intelligent. Some more than others, though, like I said. With that said, this industry will welcome those people into the industry as long as they can show that it was a one off event rather than an ongoing trend. I know a lot of drivers will go, well, you look at the last 3 years. That's not the case. We really go back and whatever evidence that we have over a lifetime that we can show, we look at VOEs 3 years back, but we look at the larger body of work because God forbid something happen, an attorney is going to pull every shred of paper that has something on it that they can utilize to get their client more money. And so our big piece of that when we look at it is it truly is a case by case basis. There is not one felony that we go, we will never hire it outside of anything that's of a sexual nature involving a minor, and a lot of companies have that, or
Yeah.
because of the nature of what we do with cross border moves, anything involving human trafficking, we generally are going to tell you we're not going to get involved with that. It'd just be a PR nightmare for us. Outside of that, it really is a case by case basis. We're really looking is okay, we have this event. Is there corroborating evidence that this is going to be an ongoing problem going forward? And if it's not, if that was an isolated event and there's nothing saying that that behavioral pattern's going on, we generally can be very open about it at that moment.
And a lot of companies are like that. They are pretty open with stuff. It's the pattern. And what folk are not realizing is when you have a violent felony and then you're a speeder, that's similar pattern. It shows that aggression. Also, just to be plain, you need if you can't be both, right? You have to pick your poison. You can't have a felony and a so-so driving record. Your driving record needs to be clean. Okay. So, and it really needs to be clean. That type of situation. But also the sexual crime, messing with children, and the trafficking, those are typically your big no's when it comes to this industry. You have some companies that will look at it, but those are the felonies that are the harder ones to overlook.
Yep.
But that's probably about it. And we can,
It's a good question.
That's an excellent question.
It's a good question. Yep.
Sorry, Pearson.
No, it's fine. We have a bit of a delay this week, and it's not a problem. We don't have the same connection in Laredo we do in Houston.
Oh, because you're not in the real Texas.
I'll let them know that when I walk out of the room. They'll love that discussion.
What were you about to say, Kayla?
Oh, I was waiting for you to say something about Laredo since Mr. Pearson's in Laredo today.
Right, yeah. It's not the real Texas. But no, I will be updating the felony. I have felony video about navigating felonies and things like that in our trucking industry. So I'll be definitely updating that. because that is one of our more watched, that is our most watched video on the Rig on Wheels show of Rig on Wheels YouTube channel. So I definitely will be updating that.
I will give a piece of advice. One of the luxuries that you have going through Rig on Wheels with a carrier on the compared to the direct employer, as an example, you can have a much more honest and open discussion with Rig on Wheels. We, as the employer, have to deal with ban the box states where it was meant to help people, but what ends up happening a lot of times is I can't have the discussion with you. You get hired, your criminal background check comes in, and then all of a sudden we have to have a conversation after you've been hired. So it's kind of had unintended consequences of what ban the box was created to accomplish. The other part of that equation, though, is that Camille's team's going to ask a lot of questions on that end. And if you're open and honest about it, they can go into a lot of those discussions. And instead of you having to do phone call, trying to get negative responses, allow them to have that opportunity. It is not always a no. The nice thing, though, is they're going to also be able to tell you, hey, this does not look good, or this does look good. Have that discussion. And I would literally, if it's something that you believe is a major issue, I'd lead off the conversation with it and get it over with right off the top of the bat. If you find out about it later in the process, your time's precious, just like our time. We do not want to waste anybody's time. We value your time.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree with that, Pearson. Thank you. And our speaking of time, has come to an end. This was a very fast show. And I want you to enjoy your time in Laredo and all the rest of your week there. Absolutely. And I want everybody to be safe. I know that the hurricane and everything and how it's moving within the United States, Chicago getting all these tornadoes. I just want everybody to be safe, safe and sound. Just stay home. Just everybody just stay home. The only people on the road just truck drivers, so they can do what they do, and they can be able to be safe. I just want everybody to stay home. Stay home. I'm so nervous. All this bad weather. And we'll be back Tuesday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Pearson, what do you have to tell everybody other than stay home?
I think it's important to remember that we need to be able to disagree with each other and not flip the hell out. We're going to have differing opinions. I think that we mainly agree on 70% of things. Like most people that you bump into in the store, you probably agree with them more often than you disagree with them. We're all pretty much the same. There's about 30% of issues that we just feel differently about, and it's fine. If your ideas are better, you'll talk about it and you'll argument, but there's no reason to flip out. And I think that is the silver lining of what took place the other day at the Trump rally, is we probably need to have cooler heads and be okay with the fact that we don't have to agree with everybody. It does not make them a monster because they don't agree with you.
I definitely agree with that. Absolutely. Everybody just take a breather, take a step back, think about it. So I want everybody to be safe and come back on Tuesday, and we'll see you here at 3 p.m. Bye-bye from the Rig on Wheels show featuring MVT.